haven't seen your face around here.
Nope. I'm new.
All right. All right, Christian, I am honored to be talking to you again.
Albert, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How you been?
I'm good.
Awesome. Well, I gotta tell you, I watched Lights Out yesterday. I absolutely loved it. The story itself, the fights were good, and even the little twists and turns in the second half. They really was not expecting some of that stuff to happen, but I loved it.
Awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that.
So I know Chad Law and Gary Charles wrote the scripts, but what
Yep.
got you involved with it? How'd you get your involvement in this?
We were just wrapping. We had just wrapped Section 8 like in December, and then that shoot went well. And Chad had another script, and the same producer of Section 8, Brandon Burrows. We went through the holidays. He was like, "Dude, we got another script from Chad. I think you'll like. There's an opportunity here and an opening with Frank's schedule, this, that, and the other in February. Can we prep this and get going and go back to back right away?" And I was like, "Yeah, it sounds awesome. Let me read it." So I read it, and look, I'm a big fan of the fight genre. I'm a big fan of MMA, boxing, all that stuff. And obviously, growing up in the '80s, every kickboxer, Jean-Claude Road, everything, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've seen it a million
Me too.
times.
Me too.
So I was like, man, I've never done a movie in this genre. I've had fight scenes, but never a fight movie. So I was like, okay, I read it. It was very Roadhouse, Lionheart style. And I was like, okay, so the challenge for me was, how do you make this your own? How do you make this now? How do you make this cool? How do you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we took on the challenge, and the biggest challenge for me was making this a character. For me, I was like, I want to make a character-driven fight movie. That was it. So how do we make this a compelling character-driven fight movie that's, especially as an indie movie, just stands out and it's not just a bunch of punches and kicks and that's it, done.
Yeah, and Frank was awesome in this movie. And you mentioned it, character driven. I liked his backstory that he came from the military. He's still suffering from PTSD because he saw his whole platoon get obliterated.
Yep.
And he still reels from that. Yet, and he has this reason why he's in Los Angeles, and the fact that he's got this little special set of skills. I mean, he was just phenomenal in this movie. I think this, hands down, I think this is one of the best roles he's ever done. Hands down.
We were like, this is tailor made for you, bro. So, I love Frank. I think he's great at everything. I just think this one showcases all his best things, he's a phenomenal actor, period. Right. He's a phenomenal talent, and he just has charisma, and he's a great fighter. So all those things kind of came into play for him.
Exactly.
And him and Mekhi are just so good together.
Yeah, exactly. And Mekhi Phifer, I'm used to seeing him in these tough guy type roles. Here, he wasn't really a tough guy. He was a guy who's struggling. He struggles a lot and trying to redeem himself. And he was the Harrison Page of the film. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly who he reminded me of. He was exactly that character. He's actually the character from Lionheart.
Yeah.
They had such great natural chemistry together. I think that's what made the film work as well.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody did really great.
Yeah, and I got to give props to Jaime King. I mean, I've never seen her in a bad guy role like this. You don't count White Chicks because that's an airhead rival type role. This one, she's really, oh my gosh, she was evil. Even though she doesn't show it, but you could tell she just was
dude. Yeah, well, it's one of those things where in these kind of movies, it could go tropey so fast of who the villain is. Because I always say, Dermot's character is great. I always say he's not the villain; he's the opportunist, and he gets caught. He gets caught in this web that's oh man, he's in trouble. But Jamie's right hand man, my buddy Paul Sloan, they're the villains. Paul's the do dirt guy, and Jaime is the king, the queen pin of the bunch. And I think that we talked about this, where we're like, how do you make her the polar opposite of Lonzo from Denzel from Training Day, a mega crooked cop, but the female version and totally low key version.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, speaking of Dermot, man, I'm glad that he's getting his foot wet in action flicks now, because I watched Ruthless last month, and he just floored me with his performance in that. Like that was his first lead role in an action flick, and the fact that he worked with a good friend of mine, Art Camacho, on it. I mean,
Yeah.
the way he just broke all these arms. But I like the fact that, as you mentioned, he was the opportunist. He was a real slick businessman type, and the fact that he has a right hand person too in Juju Chan, who's
Yeah,
her
Juju.
skills are unparalleled. Yeah, her skills.
Yeah, Juju, and she just was so like, and again, Juju was like one of the last bit of casting that came into play that was a cool gift for us. Like, oh man, Juju wants to do that's great. It was like not expected. I'm like, Juju is great. So just her cool little like swagger all the time, and just it was cool. It was just it's a great addition. Her and Cowboy.
Yeah, and of course we got to talk about Scott Adkins because
I mean, that's yeah.
for a good portion of the film, I thought he was just going to be in like one part of the film, and then bam, when he shows up, I'm just like, my jaw literally drops to the ground, like, oh snap! But I kind of knew at the same time, like, oh, he's going to get Scott Adkins on this one, and
Yeah.
and
And Scott was like the cool, like, I remember when the first press announcements came out, I'm like, man, Scott, like, yeah, my people are gonna think Scott and Frank fight each other in this and this, that, and the other. And I was like, it's not that. And it was always kind of this, it was like Scott's like the guest star that comes in at the end. That's like, oh, whoa, Scott Adkins is gonna come help save the day. But and again, keep it to the character driven bit, like, Scott comes in and saves the day in a very heavy way.
yeah,
And he just kind of steals that scene there at the end.
but
So
yeah, but at that same time, I like the way it plays out though, because I thought that the whole film he's just appearing in the flashbacks because that's where
yeah,
we mostly see him. So I thought, okay, and then but I knew once Frank said I have to call someone, I knew right then and there, I'm like, he's gonna call. I was like,
we're calling
stop! I knew it.
Atkins.
I thought he's calling me. He's calling
Who
that
who better to call than to call Atkins? That's right.
exactly. And I got hands down on the fight choreography. I like what you did with this one because you got to show, and I've been seeing a lot more of this lately. The whole X-ray bit where and I think that's like a smart move. Like I
Well,
saw,
well, we talk about this. It's funny because that was like an 11th hour editing decision. Like, yeah, it was not planned. It was very not like that because, again, for me, I was always so almost paranoid, like very cautious of making sure that we kept very grounded and real and not stylized and not this way. I'm like, because it's just, I always know how easy it is to go off the rails for these kind of movies. Where you're
yeah,
like, oh man, they just went to cheese territory, and now it's just like, a jokey, tongue-in-cheek movie, which I never wanted it to feel like. I wanted it to feel a very straightforward, serious action character piece. And so that is all kudos to Brandon Burroughs, the producer. That's his idea to kind of, I mean, he did a lot. I mean, he's a great creative producer as well, but that one was like something that him and I went back and forth on. He was like, no, this could be cool. This could be cool. And I watched it. I was like, man, I don't know. And we went back and forth on it quite a bit. And at the end, we looked at it, we're like, this could be cool. And then we watched the movie as a whole. And I'm like, no, this really works. I think this could be cool.
yeah,
This is like a little bit of icing you can put on this thing. And so,
right.
yeah, I think it really was fun.
And if done right, like you said, if done right, it works. Just like in Renfield, when
Yeah.
Renfield, you don't see any of that until Renfield does that spin kick to the mobster, and then you finally see like the X-ray shot. I'm like, oh, like that's like jaw
Yeah.
dropping. But I liked how this was done because it felt like a bit like Sherlock Holmes, where
Right.
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
does the impact shots, but done you exactly know where to hit, and it didn't look
Yeah.
cheesy either. That's the good thing. It didn't look fake. It looked like it actually, all the bones did, how they would look in actual X-rays. So that's a good
Yeah.
job.
And look, yeah. And I think I think the capper with that is it plays to the end piece where where Frank kills the cop in the arena. Like that helped define like, oh man, that dude's neck just snapped. It helped you go, that's what really happened to this. So I think it kind of had, even the X-ray had a little arc of its little character. So
Yeah, awesome. So how long did shooting take on this one, and did you face any issues on this one?
yeah, of course. No, yeah, yeah. I think every indie movie is a challenge. Everything is obstacle. You're on a crazy schedule. And I think for me, I've been called overly ambitious my whole career. So, and like, yeah, it's because I wanted to feel like, I'm always chasing the studio feel of something. I always try to attempt that. Like, yes, this is an independent movie. We have the budget of one day or a half a day of what a studio budget would be, you know, and you're like, but does it still feel like that? So to get that feeling, there's a lot of stuff that I got to do. So to kind of cover it and add the layers and add this, because a lot of times the layers are what's missing from independent film. You just kind of have two people talking in a room and that's it, or a fight scene. So I just wanted to make sure that I had enough layers. So within that, it's a heavy schedule. So those are very difficult to pull off.
That's awesome. So what's next for you? Are we gonna see more of you coming up?
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff coming up this year. Thank God the strikes are over. I'm glad that everybody reached an agreement. We have some really cool stuff. I have a Christmas action movie that we're going to shoot this year, which is going to be really fun. I have my other movie coming out in the summer. It's the Dreyfuss shark thriller called Into the Deep. That's going to be really fun. And then I signed on for this kind of Kill Bill meets the Raid movie called The Shit List in Indonesia this fall.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's
one,
really.
That's gonna be one I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
Awesome. Well, everyone, check out Lights Out on February the 16th. This is Frank Grillo, one of his best films, hands down. Everyone's phenomenal in this, and you're gonna love the grounded fight scenes, the drama, the storylines, everything. And Christian, thank you so much again for talking about it.
Thanks, dude. Have a good one.
Take care. You too.